her big white cloak off, and she spread it across the land so everywhere was covered with white snow and ice. And sometimes, at a certain time of the year, something was happening. In the belly of the earth, something was glowing, something was growing. The spirit of spring was starting to rise. Cailleach didn't like this. As soon as, occasionally, out of the frosty ground, a little shoot would pop up. And maybe even a little flower would start to open. If Cailleach saw this, she would go straight over. No! And she would crush it with her staff. Whenever she saw any flowers or anything rising up, she would crush. No! 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 Needed to stay cold. When she was worried that spring was rising, she gathered her power and she brought in the winds. The cold winds. She would start to whistle. And the winds would start to rise. Can anyone whistle? Would come gusting through, cold and sharp and freezing and bitterly cold. They would rush through the land, making sure nothing could grow, making sure all of the animals had to stay hiding and hibernating, making sure the plants had to stay below the ground and the sap didn't rise in the trees. Those cold, bitter winds kept it all away. She would dance and celebrate as the cold winds came in. Can you blow the winds with me? Yeah.
Is the queen of does she have the power to thrust everything?
She does.
Does she get cold as well?
And the winds kept coming and coming. And she would get exhausted and tired, but she would carry on singing. Carry on doing the wind sounds for me and whistling if you can. I am old, I am weary, all alone in the cold and the dark as the cold winds blow, as the cold winds blow. I am old, I am weary, all alone in the dark and the cold as the cold winds blow, as the cold winds blow. I am old, I am weary, all alone in the dark and the cold as the cold winds blow, as the cold winds blow, as the cold winds blow. As the cold winds blow, as the cold winds blow, I am old, I go and the cold winds blow, and the cold winds blow, and the cold winds blow, when 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 the cold winds blow, keep going.
When the cold winds blow,
keep going.
Cold winds blow, when the cold winds blow,
in the cold, in the cold,
when the cold winds
in the cold winds blow, I am weary all alone in the dark, in the cold, as the cold winds blow, as the cold winds blow. As she grew more weary and exhausted from making everything so cold, it took so much energy from her. She needed.
What is the other one's power?
We'll find out in a minute. She went to the well, she pulled her dress up, and she managed to limp through the water to the hill and up to the well. She was so exhausted, it took so much energy to keep everything cold and to bring the cold winds. She pulled the slab off the top of the well, and she managed to take a little drink, and she was so tired. She saw a nice mossy area and she laid down just for a little rest. Oh, she just needed to rest her legs. And she laid down for a little nap and started to sleep. While she was sleeping, the sun started to set. And as it got dark, the waters from the well of youth started to rise. There was no slab on the top. Cailleach had fallen asleep and forgotten to put the slab back. As it started to rise, the energy from below the ground was rising higher and higher until the water started to seep out of the top of the well. As the moon rose higher, the water started to flood, continuously flooding out of the well. It flooded all over to Cailleach and woke her up. Oh, no! What have I done? Oh! She tried to get back, but the waters were so powerful, they washed her staff out of her hand. No! She tried to rise, but the moonlight and the nighttime turned her into stone.
And she turned into a bench. Take it up again!
As Cailleach turned into stone and the moon was rose, water flooded across the land. Energy was brought to the land, and come in the morning when the sun began to rise again, there was warmth. A blazing light came up from across the horizon, and a new goddess rose with the sun. Brigit. Brigit, the white one. Brigit, the bright one. Brigit, the bringer of spring. She rose in beautiful white dress and a big green cloak. She had thick orange hair, and she had greenery, a crown. She was beautiful, and she came up, and with her came warmth. Everywhere she stepped, new life began to rise. She took her big green cloak off and she swept it across the land, so all of the land was covered in green. She walked and danced, and every step you would see crocuses, snowdrops, daffodils. They all started to rise from the land with the new warmth. Brigit invited new life, and she danced and sang across the land, bringing new life. The animals could come out from their hiding or their deep sleeps. The plants could rise, the energy came up in the trees, and the birds began to sing all over across the land. There was a gentle breeze that whispered, "Spring is coming." The rivers and the ponds and they murmured, "Spring is coming." The birds started to sing, "Spring is coming." The animals started to chitter and chatter, "Spring is coming, spring." All across the land as it warmed and the sound came back as whispers were across, "Spring is coming, spring 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 is coming. So the land became green, the land became warm. Brigit, the white one. Brigit, the bright one. Brigit, the bringer of spring, brought new life. And so it was. And so it is.